Every December, children lined up at a Toronto mall to meet Santa Claus, a gentle grandfather with twinkling eyes and a snow-white beard. But as investigators would discover, this Santa had a secret. Between 2010 and 2017, 8 men vanished from Toronto's gay village. Most were immigrants, refugees, men living on society's margins. The police dismissed community fears of a serial killer until they found human remains concealed in garden planters across the city. The same planters tended by a local landscaper who transformed into Santa Claus each winter. Through digital clues, surveillance footage, and one crucial calendar entry, investigators would unravel how Bruce MacArthur, trusted grandfather and beloved mall Santa, became one of Canada's most prolific serial killers, and why they had to race against time to prevent him from claiming a 9th victim. Toronto's gay village, January 18, 2018. Snow blankets the streets as police surveillance teams track their target, a 67-year-old landscaper who moonlights as a mall Santa Claus. They've been watching Bruce MacArthur for months, but today, something is different. A young man has entered his apartment, and the officer's instincts tell him he's in danger. What they discover inside will expose one of Canada's most prolific serial killers and unravel a web of murders spanning 7 years. The investigation began in 2010 when Skandaraj Navaratnam, a 40-year-old Sri Lankan refugee, vanished from the gay village. Over the next 7 years, more men would disappear, all connected to Toronto's LGBTQ+ community, all vulnerable in their own ways. The victims shared common threads. Some led double lives, hiding their sexual orientation from family. Others struggled with homelessness or faced deportation. MacArthur chose his targets carefully, exploiting these vulnerabilities to avoid detection. Despite mounting disappearances, the Toronto Police Service initially dismissed the community's fears of a serial killer. The breakthrough came with Andrew Kinsman's disappearance in June 2017. Unlike previous victims, Kinsman left a crucial clue: the word Bruce written in his calendar on the day he vanished. This single entry would ultimately lead investigators to Bruce MacArthur's door. But the true horror lay in what police would find at the properties where MacArthur worked as a landscaper. Human remains concealed in large planter boxes, a macabre signature that would shock even veteran investigators. Bruce MacArthur's life began in 1951, far from the dark path he would eventually walk. Born and raised near Toronto, he grew up in a traditional family setting that gave no hint of the violence to come. By the 1980s, he had constructed a seemingly perfect life. Married with 2 children, working as a traveling salesman, active in his local church. But beneath this carefully maintained facade, MacArthur wrestled with his sexuality in an era where being gay often meant living in the shadows. The first crack in his carefully constructed persona appeared in 2001. A violent assault on a male sex worker with an iron pipe revealed a capacity for brutality that would only escalate. The justice system's response, a conditional sentence served under house arrest, proved tragically inadequate. MacArthur successfully applied for a pardon, effectively erasing this red flag from his record. His victims were men with dreams, hopes, and families who loved them. Skandaraj Navaratnam had fled civil war in Sri Lanka to build a new life in Canada. His friend described him as always laughing, always smiling, always happy. Abdul Basir Faizi balanced family obligation with his secret life in the gay village, hoping someday to live authentically. What drove a grandfather who played Santa to become a predator? The psychology behind MacArthur's crimes reveals a complex intersection of power, opportunity, and calculated deception. Each murder followed a pattern suggesting premeditation rather than impulse. MacArthur photographed his victims in posed positions, keeping the images as trophies. He used his landscaping business to dispose of remains, transforming clients' gardens into unmarked graves. The careful planning, the trophy-taking, the signature disposal method, all hallmarks of a predator who had refined his technique over years. January 2019. A packed Toronto courtroom falls silent as Bruce MacArthur rises to face justice. The man who once played Santa Claus now stands convicted of 8 counts of first-degree murder. The sentence: life imprisonment with no possibility of parole for 25 years. The breakthrough came through meticulous detective work. Surveillance teams tracked MacArthur's movements. Digital evidence revealed trophy photos of his victims. Most damning were the planters, scattered across Toronto's gardens, each concealing gruesome evidence of his crimes. Police would recover over 1,800 pieces of evidence from his apartment alone. The arrest itself proved tragically timely. When officers burst into MacArthur's apartment that January morning, they found a young man already bound, moments away from becoming the 9th victim. The officers' swift action had interrupted a killer's routine, saving a life and ending a reign of terror that had spanned nearly a decade. The case joins the dark pantheon of LGBTQ+ targeted violence, echoing the crimes of other predators who exploited marginalized communities. But MacArthur's murders expose something equally sinister: how a killer could operate in plain sight when his victims came from society's shadows. The impact ripples far beyond the courtroom. For Toronto's gay village, the wounds run deep. Trust in law enforcement, already fragile, suffered further damage as questions emerged about missed opportunities and dismissed concerns. Why did it take the disappearance of Andrew Kinsman, a white, well-connected activist, to finally spark serious investigation? The case has forced changes in how missing person cases are handled, particularly involving marginalized communities. The Toronto Police Service faced intense scrutiny over their initial reluctance to acknowledge a serial killer was targeting their community. New protocols have been implemented, but for many, these changes come too late. For the victims' families, no verdict can restore what was taken. Their impact statement spoke of shattered lives, endless nightmares, and the torment of knowing their loved ones' final moments. As one family member stated, "We will be haunted forever by what happened." The media attention, including the powerful documentary Santa Claus the Serial Killer, available on Apple TV+, and numerous television specials, keeps the case in public memory, ensuring these stories and lessons aren't forgotten. But it also serves as a reminder: sometimes the most dangerous predators hide behind the most benign facades. This isn't just a story about a serial killer who played Santa Claus. It's about the prejudice to blind, the cost of institutional indifference, and the devastating consequences when society decides some lives matter less than others. Remember, every crime has a story. Every story has a lesson.